Hey there, America. This is the American Turcopoles. The reason I chose this name is because back during the time when the jihads of the Sunni Islamic empires were being launched against the West, there was people who were living in the areas that they were attacking that were actually either Muslim or Muslim, depending on how you pronounce it, or nominally Muslim or Christian. And these people were being attacked heavily by Islamic groups that wanted to establish, like, their global caliphate. And this is specifically a Sunni global caliphate because Shiites typically don't establish caliphates. They have imamates, and they tend to be a little bit different in how they function. They don't have a what I call a global power domination goal, unless maybe if you're like some sort of political or radical Islamist type groups. Though, I guess all bets are off on that situation. But one of the biggest issues that I've seen lately is, all these different groups that come out and they try to talk about Islam and, supposedly representing the Muslim community in the world, but they're really not. I mean, you even have organizations like, let's say, actually, I won't mention any names yet, but more specifically, four-letter organizations that are supposedly representing Muslims in the United States, and they're really not. Their main goal is to actually create a need for them to get donations. Like, for example, every time there's any sort of minor attacks where, let's say, some drunk, hillbilly or redneck or somebody, and no offense to rednecks or hillbillies, but somebody who's actually drunk or, having some issues, or they have mental problems, or, they're not, in the regular state of mind, they go and attack Muslims. They may pull somebody's hijab off. They might insult somebody. They might do all sorts of stuff that they physically lash out like that. A lot of that is just their frustration over time, and because of their situation with lack of education, resources, opportunities, they try to act out like that, and usually they get drunk before they do it, and that's one of the problems right there. Or maybe they're on drugs, that happens as well. But anyways, you can't really call those people terrorists, because they're not terrorists. They're just people lashing out. They're not doing it because of a religious ideology. They're not like establishing a global caliphate, which a lot of Sunni, specifically Wahhabist or Salafist Muslims, are trying to do. And those same Wahhabi type caliphatists who want to establish a global government also hate people who are like myself, who are either moderate or secular Shia Muslims, because we get targeted probably more than anybody else does. It's like the number one group that gets attacked by these ISIS type fanatics. But really, this ideology, a lot of people, they try to say, oh, ISIS is just a brand new thing, and you hear a lot of Sunni apologists come out and say this kind of stuff. But really, ISIS is not new. ISIS is the same Sunni Caliphate movement that has been around for about 1,400 years. The reason I say this is because the whole world was not Muslim. It started out in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia, and or what we call today Saudi Arabia, but in Mecca, Arabia, and it spread all over the world. And the spreading didn't happen by peace in all places, and actually in the majority of the heartlands of Islam, it actually happened by force, by the sword, and it did, they were, killing and converting people and stuff. But at the end of the day, one of the parts that sticks out the most is not just the killing and converting aspect of it, but also the slavery. A lot of people try to say, oh, we've had slavery in the United States and all this kind of stuff against blacks, but what they don't understand is that slavery against blacks didn't come out of nowhere. It was actually Arab Muslims in Africa who were enslaving them, and then they were selling them to the West and the East. Now, majority of the slaves that were sold to the West were black slaves, but the majority of the slaves that were sold to the East were white slaves. And that's because Asians are actually the number one most racist people on earth, regardless of what the left tries to teach you. And there's actually statistics for that. If you need to find out more about that, let me know. I can email you the statistics. But regardless, what we're looking at here is a lot of disinformation between Marxists and Islamists who's coming out, and they're trying to brainwash people into thinking, oh, people who stand up for their country, who are nationalists, they're bad people. Well, no, they're not bad people. They just don't want their country overrun and destroyed the way that Rome fell after 600 years. We don't want to fall like that, and that's not our goal. I myself, I'm an Iranian American, somewhere between a moderate and secular type Shia Muslim. And however, recently I did some DNA testing, and my DNA test actually shows that I'm 99% Georgian, which means Eastern European or Southern Russian, or however you want to describe that. That being the case, that means at one time the Islamic empires enslaved my people, as they did others within the last 1400 years, and the same way that ISIS is still doing to this very day in Syria and Iraq. But here's the main thing. Imagine that somebody like myself, who has 99% Georgian DNA, how did he turn out to become an Iranian Shia Muslim? How did that happen? I'll let you ponder that until my next video. Enjoy.